Hey everybody, Paul Glasgow here. Legally on America, we are going to kick off our Friday Night Live segment. I'm going to grab my water here. I appreciate everybody hanging out with us tonight. As always, we enjoy these live streams. It gives me a chance to interact with everybody out there and kind of get your feedback on some things that we've been talking about in the media. I want to point out a couple things, and I'm actually setting up right now so that I can read you guys comments and things of that nature as we go on. So if you'll be patient with me, excuse me for a second. I have to actually set this up after we've gone live in order for me to see everything. I can't do this ahead of time, so I'm trying to set this up so that I can communicate with you guys. And here we go. We're up. All right, guys. As you guys know, there are tons of stuff going on out there, bills that are being proposed. And let me kill my volume over here. What I want to do is I want to take one of the main ones, it's probably the scariest one, and talk about it here in a second. Before we get into that, I kind of want to do, I guess, what you could consider somewhat of a monologue. I want to talk about the stores that are doing these things that supposedly they're doing the right thing, so to speak, because the NRA won't or gun owners won't do it. Dick's Sporting Goods, and by default, Field and Stream. They have Dick's Sporting Goods has 36 stores out there that run by the name of Field and Stream. I have educated myself a little bit on this, and I will admit some things that I might have been wrong about this week when I lashed out at Dick's Sporting Goods. Not to say that they're not guilty of anything, but Walmart also, Kroger, which again by default is the Fred Meyer brand stores. These are the only three that I'm aware of, but these guys have taken it upon themselves to not allow 21-year-olds to purchase AR-15s. And I don't think guns in general. Obviously, 18 to 21-year-olds already, or 18 to 20-year-olds already were not allowed to purchase handguns by federal law. And these stores took it upon themselves, and I'm pretty sure it includes shotguns now too, but now they're not going to allow any 18 and 20-year-olds to purchase any firearm, and I think ammo too. I'm sorry I'm not better prepared than that, but I guess I glazed over that before and didn't realize that that was actually a part of it too, but I'm pretty sure it's ammo. So any gun, any ammunition, Dick's Sporting Goods, Walmart, and Kroger. Now, I will say this about Dick's Sporting Goods, and I think I'm half right on this, but I was also half wrong. These guys came out and said, oh, we're not going to sell AR-15s anymore. First, they said they weren't going to sell AR-15s, period. And of course, they're not going to be selling them to 21-year-olds, of course. But my comment on that was, well, you guys stopped selling those after Sandy Hook. You kind of, fell into that whole bandwagon thing with the general public and said, we're not going to sell these, and you lost a lot of business. And you did. You lost a lot of business back then. Well, my whole complaint was, all right, you guys stopped selling back then. Why are you coming out saying it again? Because they said it under the same name, Dick's Sporting Goods. They said Dick's Sporting Goods is no longer going to sell AR-15s, and I was like, all right, you stopped that 6 years ago. Well, supposedly they still had some stores selling AR-15s that did not go by the name Dick's Sporting Goods. They were called Field and Stream stores. I'm not aware of those. They must not have those down south here. I'm in South Louisiana. But they had 36 stores nationwide, or somewhere in the nation, that were called Field and Stream that did still sell AR-15s. And now they're not going to sell them anymore. So the headlines probably, and again, this is the media always grabbing the things they can grab to make a big story. But since Dick's Sporting Goods is a bigger name, the media said that Dick's Sporting Goods isn't going to sell AR-15s anymore. And that is actually incorrect, because Dick's Sporting Goods, the store, had already stopped selling them. So again, I was half wrong on that, because I came down pretty hard on Dick's, saying you guys are just grabbing headlines because you stopped doing this already. And I still think they were grabbing headlines, but I was indirectly wrong on that, because Field and Stream definitely was still selling them, and I was not aware of that. I didn't know Field and Stream was an affiliation of Dick's Sporting Goods. Walmart, I guess we could kind of expect that from Walmart, but it does kind of surprise me. All these major corporations, it's so funny how usually the left is bashing the right because the right are the big, rich corporations, but oddly enough, most of these corporations are actually run by liberals. The liberals just don't get that. So Walmart, being an Arkansas-based, originally an Arkansas-based company, did kind of surprise me a little bit that they would fall into this, because honestly, Walmart doesn't need anybody. They're so big. I mean, they're a juggernaut. Whether people want to act like they're going to boycott Walmart or not, That's just a blip on Walmart's radar screen. So I'm really kind of disappointed in Walmart big time on this. Not that I care, and I'll get to that here in a second. But I mean, I don't buy stuff from Walmart. I don't buy that. I mean, but they're so huge. You know, they didn't need to do this. They didn't need to cave to media pressure or anything like that. Kroger's. Here again, similar to Dick's Sporting Goods. When I heard Kroger's, I was like, Kroger's? Well, Kroger's has an affiliate company called Fred Meyer. And apparently, again, they're not down south down here. Apparently, they had stopped selling AR-15s, or they're going to stop selling AR-15s because they must have continued to sell AR-15s. So again, we got Dick's Sporting Goods, which is Field and Stream, Walmart, Kroger, which is Fred Meyer brand. Those guys have all said we're better than you, and we're going to stop doing any of this, stop selling any of this. So whatever, you know, it's just going to hurt them. The funny thing about it is whenever liberals are going to boycott something, rarely does it ever benefit the stores that they're not boycotting. So they usually don't vote with their wallet, or you know, speak with their wallet, or they're not vocal with their wallets. What's really going to happen is the pro-gun people will stop purchasing things from Dick's, and that's not just guns. I mean, the Dick's people are probably like, oh, we didn't want their gun business anyway. That's not all you're losing. You're going to lose their tennis shoe business, their sneakers, socks, golf clubs, whatever else. I mean, we have a Dick's Sporting Goods here at our mall. I don't go in there because everything's overpriced. I certainly don't go in there for guns because my whole point of all this is, you know, I don't shop at big box stores anyway. I look at the little guys, the mom and pops out there who are busting their butts to try to give us a product that's competitive. And in all honesty, most of your mom and pops, people have this misunderstanding that a mom and pop is always going to be more expensive than a big box store. That big box store is somehow or another going to give you discounts and better prices. That's not the case. That is totally not the case. The big box stores, in many cases, because they don't care and they don't need your business, they buy in bulk and they have a pretty decent markup, and they simply don't get past that deal on to you. Well, these mom and pops that I shop at, that I work with locally here down in the Southwest Louisiana area, have very competitive pricing. I'm not one of these kind of guys that goes into a mom and pop and says, is that the best you can do? Look, these people have to make a living. These people that go into these stores and act like they're at a pawn shop, you know, unless you're at a pawn shop, and say, is that the best you can do on price? Yeah, it's the best they can do. They know what they need, they know what their markup needs to be, and that's what they're charging for it. But I don't have to ask them for the best price because the best price always beats someone else. I'm talking about ammo and guns. You could go to, say, Academy, for instance. Now, I haven't heard Academy's doing this, so I'm just using their name as an example for selling ammo and all that because they're close by. You can go to Academy, and Academy is going to sell ammo more expensive than you're going to find at the mom and pops. The mom and pops may not be buying it as cheap, but they're not trying to rake you over the coals either. So they're giving you a competitive price on all your products. I will say this: if you are a big box shopper, and so far they're holding out. So far, Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's, those guys are still selling everything right now. And to my knowledge, as of 7/12 on a Friday night, Central Standard Time, they still have not raised their rate. Their age for young people to buy guns. Still, an 18, 19, and 20-year-old can purchase an AR-15 at a Bass Pro and a Cabela's, and they can purchase ammunition. They have not had their rights infringed upon by Bass Pro or Cabela's. So again, if you got to shop at a big box store, make it Bass Pro and Cabela's because those guys haven't turned yet, and let's hope they don't. You know, again, you know, maybe you'd like to have some options, but you know, Bass Pro and Cabela's, you know, they are big box stores. I would encourage everybody to, you know, look at these mom and pops. You know, look at your local gun stores. If you've always been led to believe that your local gun store somehow or another must be higher, because again, you have that thinking in the back of your mind that the big box stores must get it in these huge quantities and they can pass that savings on to you. They don't pass the savings on to you. They've got massive overheads out there. So they're making more profit in many cases than these mom and pops are. These mom and pops have a little bit lower overhead. They can be a little bit more competitive. Let me tell you another thing about mom and pops versus the big box stores. If you walk into, and I'm not trying to beat up on them, let's use Dick's as an example because we're beating up on Dick's anyway and they suck. If you walk into a Dick's and you want to know something, well, they don't sell AR-15, so let's say that you want to know about a bolt action rifle. If you go in there and ask them about a Remington 700, you are going to get the stupidest, most blank stare from the person you asked that you've ever seen. because that person that you just asked probably just helped somebody buy a pair of sneakers in the shoe section, took their smoke break, and now they're in the gun section. These are not people that are committed to firearms. These are not people who know firearms. You're going to get lucky every now and then, and you're going to find somebody that just happens to be a fan or someone that likes firearms, and maybe they happen to be working in the gun section. That's going to be rare. More often than not, you're going to find somebody that knows jack about firearms, and you ask them, and you're going to get this. You're going to get this stupid look because they don't know. They just simply don't know. Look, they're trying to make their minimum wage, get out of there as fast as they can. They're wanting to do as little as possible. You just slowed down their sprint to the time to get off that day by asking them a question. They want to just go drool somewhere in the corner and not have to worry about anything. They don't care about guns. They don't want to know about guns. Heck, even if they care about, or even if they know something about guns, they'll probably lie to you and say, I don't even know what you're talking about, because they don't want to mess with you. That's not what they're there for. You go to the little stores, the mom and pops, the local gun shops. These are people that are emotionally invested in many cases in that product because they have to know about it. These are people who they need you to feel comfortable talking to them about guns because this is their livelihood. They don't sell to you. They may not sell a gun that day. They may only sell 10 guns a day. They're not like the big box stores moving this massive amount of product, and guns just happen to be a tiny portion of it. These mom and pops, they're selling ammo and firearms. That's what they sell. So they need to know about their products. So by default, they're going to know about it. You sit around a gun store all day long, and that's all you have is guns and ammo, you're going to learn something. I mean, just by osmosis or by default, you're going to learn something in the gun store. So you definitely got better options. You're going to learn more about your firearm. You're going to be more, if you go, let's say, I've seen it many times where the husband or the boyfriend take their girlfriend or their wife in to buy a firearm, and of course the guy's dominating the conversation, pretty much telling the wife or the girlfriend what she needs to buy. And in a big box store, nobody's going to intervene. Nobody's going to interject and say, what about this? Try this. Nobody's going to do that. In these mom and pop shops, you're going to have those people that are going to say, well, that's good feedback, because they're obviously they want to patronize the boyfriend or the husband to get them to kind of, all right, don't get mad at me, but I'm going to say this instead. Hey, that's good advice, they might tell the guy. But have you thought about this or maybe this? And so they're going to offer up things that are going to make it a whole lot more beneficial for you to shop at that mom and pop. I don't want to dwell on this too long. I just mainly want to point out that other than just having your own type of boycott, so to speak, towards Dick's, Walmart, and Kroger's, maybe you just look at a mom and pop, not for the bad that the Dicks and all that have, but for the good that you might find in these mom and pops by having people in there that care about the products and know about the products. That's my spill on that. Let me get my notes away on that. All right, guys. Next up, I want to talk about this bill that's coming out. And I'm going to try my best to look at you guys' comments here tonight. Let me take a little break real quick, if you guys don't mind. And I'm going to scroll through here. See if I can't see anything in here. Now, you guys are having some massive conversations in here, so I'm not going to interject at all. I'm going to let you guys do y'all's thing online. I want to talk about this new bill that is was submitted this past week to Congress. And of course, when you have Dianne Feinstein as the author, nothing good can come of that. This bill is, in its entirety, 127 pages, possibly. I think it's 127 pages. This thing is very, very overreaching. It's misleading. It's open-ended, and it's dangerous to gun owners. This is probably the most beautiful thing in the world to somebody who's trying to ban guns, because it's very ambiguous. It's wordy, which makes it somewhat confusing. Now, granted, this is not the final text of the bill, so some of the pages are addendums to the bill and changes to wording and text and things like that. But it's titled, they actually don't even have a number for it yet, but it says this act may be cited as the Assault Weapons Ban of 2018. Now that sounds vicious, of course, that they're using their trigger word, assault weapon, made up word. Actually, this is a word now. I've gotten into some arguments with some liberals, I think on our Facebook page, that assault weapon is actually now in the dictionary. So now the liberals and the left actually can say, oh, it is a real word because it's in a dictionary. It's been used so much by liberals, it's actually in the dictionary now. That's pathetic. A made-up phrase is not a. Of course, I mean, I guess things wind up in a dictionary that's slang and made up anyway. So, excuse me. I guess I get it. But nevertheless, this thing here is very overreaching. Some of the things that they mention in here, the term semi-automatic pistol, keep that in mind. Semi-automatic pistol means any repeating pistol that utilizes a portion of the energy of a firing cartridge to extract the fired cartridge case and chamber the next round, and requires a separate pull of the trigger to fire each cartridge. Now, what they did was they came in here. Now remember, that was pistols. They talk about rifles, pistols, and shotguns that are semi-automatic that they're wanting to get rid of. Now, when they name the pistols that they're trying to get rid of, they actually name, let me get to that page. They name AR style pistols. So they are giving the impression, and I can't find my exact place of that, but they're trying to give the impression slightly by wording this that, oh, we're just talking about AR-15 pistols. And really they do. They have lists, just so you guys know what I'm looking at here. They list, see if you guys can see that. They are listing the names of all the weapons that they're saying should be banned. So they don't list, say, like 1911s or Glocks or anything like that in here. And that's going to be their thing to say that, oh, that's not what we meant. However, leave this up to Congress to leave things open-ended and backdoored. Their definition of a semi-automatic pistol, even though they don't name, say, a Glock 19, for instance, excuse me, their term for their definition for the term semi-automatic pistol, again, means any repeating pistol. I want to do this while we're saying this. Look at this and tell me if I'm not defining this pistol. Any repeating pistol that utilizes a portion of the energy of a firing cartridge to extract the fired cartridge case and chamber the next round, and requires a separate pull of the trigger to fire each cartridge. Did I not just describe this? Now, they may be talking about, which they actually mention it. Let me grab one. They actually mention the CZ Scorpion as being one of the pistols that they're outlawing, that they want to ban. They may list this, but their definition includes this. Sneaky. The reason why their list means nothing to me, their list of all the guns that they're saying are prohibited under their little bill, the reason why that means nothing to me is because next week, every one of these manufacturers could come in here and rename their product and say, well, my product's not on your list anymore. So we know that at some point, they're going to refer back to this definition. And if you can see the definition, I've got it highlighted right up here. I'm sorry if it's kind of fuzzy looking, but that's the definition I'm talking about. The term semi-automatic pistol means any repeating pistol that utilizes a portion of the energy of a firing cartridge to extract the fired cartridge case and chamber the next round, and requires a separate pull of the trigger to fire each cartridge. Tell me that I didn't just describe this. Again, guys, we can't possibly trust the list of all the guns that they're saying will be banned because the list doesn't mean anything. Why wouldn't, if the list was set in stone and really meant something, why wouldn't every single manufacturer go out there and repackage every gun they've got that's listed on here and say, hey, my gun's not on your list anymore? Because technically, and you and I all know this, these are both pistols. Both of these are pistols, and both of these fall under the definition of what I just showed you on semi-automatic pistol. It doesn't say small enough to fit in your pocket, that it's okay. It doesn't say that at all. It doesn't say this does not mean any pistol out there that's, I don't know, describe this. They don't describe this and exclude this. And another thing, they have a full section in this bill that does exclude various guns. It excludes an M1 Garand. Bolt action rifle. It's got a massive list of bolt action rifles. I believe, I want to say pump shotguns are excluded. I'm not 100% sure. I know semi-automatic shotguns are banned according to their bill. But everything that they mention in there, they either name what's excluded from the ban or what's included in the ban. Now, to get something on that excluded list is going to be kind of tough. But again, they don't mention a Glock. Again, guys, you can't leave it up to them with an open-ended definition like this and expect them to be honest about it and say, oh, well, we didn't mean Glocks. Oh, we didn't mean a 1911. Can you imagine this? By their definition, a 100-year-old 1911 could very easily fall on this list. That's the craziest thing in the world. And think about this, guys. Everything that we're talking about here, which again, they are trying to talk about AR-15 style pistols, AR-15 style rifles, and shotguns. And the shotgun, pretty much, it's almost everything. They have their definition. Well, let's see here. Let me find. Let me find this their definition of a shotgun here. Semi-automatic shotgun. A semi-automatic shotgun that has any one of the following. Any one of the following is going to be outlawed. If it has a folding, telescoping, or detachable stock. If it has a pistol grip. If it has a fixed magazine with the capacity to accept more than 5 rounds. I think every single shotgun that I own that's a semi-automatic can accept more than 5 rounds if the plug is removed out of it. The ability to accept a detachable magazine, where there goes a couple of my other shotguns. If it has a forward grip. Now, I think what they're talking about here when they say forward grip, because they're stupid and they don't know guns, I'm pretty sure that honestly when they're talking about a forward grip, they might mean a vertical grip, but they put forward grip. To me, a forward grip actually means a forend, but I think they mean a vertical grip. And then it goes into the ridiculous. If it has a grenade launcher or rocket launcher, or any shotgun with a revolving cylinder. So, again, guys, that's the stuff that they're including in here. The most wild, wacky, open-ended stuff that you ever saw, and it gets deeper. Of course, my you guys can't see it on there, I don't think. My M249 over there is going to be outlawed also. No belt-fed semi-automatic firearms either. Here we go. Moving on to the magazines. We've already established that pretty much anything that's semi-automatic, handguns, whether they say it or not, AR-15s or shotguns are included. Now we move on to large capacity ammunition feeding device. It's the stupidest thing in the world. You know, they ought to just put a number on that. They sound ridiculous whenever they call something a high capacity or a large capacity magazine. And they just can't get it right and call it a magazine, so they're calling them feeding devices. But anything that's going to hold more than 10 rounds of ammunition is going to be banned, according to them. Let's see. Where is... Oh, you know how... I think this was back maybe in the Clinton years. Maybe not. Maybe this is in some of these states out there that are... Some of these guns are being made to be California and New York compliant. You know how they've made some of these guns to have a like a thumb hole instead of a pistol grip? Like if the pistol grip is one of the characteristics that makes a gun have to be outlawed, and in a lot of cases you've seen them. I know Black Rain Ordnance did it. I think Wyndham Weaponry did it, where they made these kind of different looking stocks where it wasn't a pistol grip because the grip came down below and attached back to the stock on the backside. They're actually correcting that in here because they knew it was stupid. They say the term pistol grip means a grip, a thumb hole stock, or any other characteristic that can function as a pistol grip. That's where they're putting these open-ended things in there. Any other characteristic that can function as a grip. You know, that's so open-ended. They're not going to allow anything. That's going to allow them to outlaw everything. Another thing that they're saying is if your gun has a threaded barrel. I mean, my gosh. How many guns are in here that have a threaded barrel? ridiculous nature of this stuff. Uh, one person to. Oh, before I forget, all of this stuff, and I think this is the bone that they want to throw to Republicans to try to get them to go along with this. They're also saying that this would be grandfathered. The magazines and the guns that would be banned would all be grandfathered. That means that you're going to be obviously allowed to possess these things after their proposed ban. Now, after the ban, any of these guns, and they have that written in here, any of these guns or magazines for that matter that are high capacity now would require a date of when that thing was actually produced that's legible and easy to read, so that they will know that if they run across a 30-round magazine, so to speak, they'll know if it's pre or post ban. So they're proposing that as well. Who is this? Looks like law enforcement is going to be exempt in some ways, but not all. They will only be able to, the way it's written that I read it, they will be able to have an AR-15, pretty much anything that they want, if it was issued from the agency that they work for, and let's say they retired. However, they still can't go out and buy something. So their agency will have to issue that to them for them to have it. So even law enforcement will be exempt or prohibited from having these items, again, unless it comes from the agency they work for. That's the grandfather clause. Secure storage. Yeah, they're saying this is kind of, I mean, from what I can tell, they're talking about felons here. They have a secure storage or safety device requirement for grandfathered semi-automatic assault weapons. And it appears that at first when I read this, I was like, great. So now they're going to mandate that every single gun be locked up, even if it is in fact grandfathered in. But it looks like they're referring to felons or maybe people that were mentally adjudicated or something like that. Because it says it shall be unlawful for any person other than a licensed importer, licensed manufacturer, or licensed dealer to store or keep under the dominion or control of that person any grandfathered semi-automatic assault weapon that the person knows or has reasonable cause to believe will be accessible to an individual prohibited from receiving or possessing a firearm under subsection G, blah, blah, blah. So again, it sounds like they're saying that you shouldn't have that allowed. Now, there's already laws in the books. Again, here we go. Congress is reinventing some of the same laws that they already don't enforce. But there's already a law in the books that says that even if a felon is in your home, you have to have that firearm inaccessible to that felon. It has to be locked up where they have no access to it. Because you yourself, as a non-felon, could be in trouble if a felon were living in your home and they had direct access to any weapons in the house. So this sounds like they're just regurgitating an existing law that's already on their books. Now, maybe what they're also trying to refer to here, because I'm not sure if that law refers to mentally handicapped or mentally defective people, as they are trying to push for more mental, restrictions on guns. So it's possible this is referring to both felons and mentally defective people. Let's see. That's probably all that I've got to go over that. Guys, my point to all this, again, is I'm going to repeat it, is that everything written in here is an overreach of every possible kind. They are not just after, they're calling an assault weapon because they're trying to redefine, even though they've already defined assault weapon on their own, and none of us recognize that term, still none of us recognize that term. They're trying to, since they've already been successful, I mean, again, like I said earlier, it's already in the dictionary, but since they have been unsuccessful to convince us of what an assault weapon is, they have been successful to convince everybody else. And by naming this an assault weapons bill, but compiling and adding every other weapon in there, that even if you want to assume their definition of an assault weapon is an AR-15, because in most cases that's what they're referring to. I mean, let's face it, when a liberal says assault weapon, they're talking about an AR-15. So even if you buy into their definition that, okay, an AR-15, I'll go along with you, it's an assault weapon, they're trying to redefine everything else. They're trying to redefine pistols and shotguns and throw them into the same category as an assault weapon and throw that overreaching, broad definition that doesn't mean anything to anybody except them over pretty much all guns. They joke about, in a real smart aleck way, that the Second Amendment was written back when we had muskets. They joke about, we're not asking you to go back to muskets. They kind of are. I mean, they almost are. It's to the point where they want to take away any type of modern firearm and give us the most basic single shot, hardly usable firearm out there. Now, my whole point in making a big deal out of pistols, again, their definition defines any pistol that one of you guys has out there right now that looks like this or looks like any other pistol. When you want to hang on to the fact that they have a list in here, you let somebody like Hillary Clinton become president, and do you honestly think she's going to care if there's a list when she has a definition that covers this, that throws this in as an assault weapon and covers it in this pretty little band that they have? Do you honestly think Hillary Clinton is going to go, well, guys, it's not on the list? Do you really think that matters to her? Do you think that any of those things on that list, she doesn't know what anything on that list is anyway, but she does know the definition applies to this. That's what's scary about this. Now, do I think this is going to get passed? I have mixed feelings on that. Anybody, including Democrats, who would get behind this bill, who is not in the bluest of blue districts, will get voted out. I truly believe that. Dianne Feinstein, Chuck Schumer, those guys can sit out there and they can talk about this bill being the greatest thing in the world, and their jobs are probably safe. But a guy like Joe Manchin is gone if he gets behind this. He will never make it. Joe Manchin is the closest thing that we have to a Democrat that's on our side. And a lot of times he sides with us. And on Second Amendment issues, many times he'll side with the pro-gun people also. Joe Manchin would be crazy to fall for this. Obviously, any Republican that got behind it would be too. My thought behind this is maybe the Democrats know that this bill can't be passed, but with midterms coming up in September, and I don't want to, in November, I don't want to bore you guys with too much politics, but midterms are coming up, and this would be just like the Democrats to propose a crazy overreaching bill that they know doesn't have a prayer to be passed, just to know that all the Republicans will vote it down and give them the leg up whenever they go into midterms and say, hey, we put forth common sense gun control laws, and every single Republican voted it down, including my opponent over here, and paint him with a broad brush. I mean, that's what they're doing. It's a setup. It's possible that this bill, even the Democrats know that this doesn't stand a chance to be passed, but yet they're putting it forth because they feel like this can be kind of the bait and switch, and they can bait all of the Republicans into voting against it, which the Republicans are in a tough place. If a Republican tries to call their bluff and vote for this, to say, hey, see, I'm for common sense gun control or whatever, then they lose anybody on the right who might vote for them in midterms. Whereas if they oppose this and vote it down, then they lose anybody who's in the middle or to the left, or probably just to the left. I think people in the middle are pretty sensible and understand the Second Amendment and what it stands for, and don't want to gouge, our Constitution and vote for something like this. So yeah, anybody that has a chance out there of pulling someone from the left to vote for them will lose it whenever they vote this down. So there's really a no-win for the Republicans, and it's kind of a win-win for the Democrats. A Democrat who's in an area who really needs the right vote, so to speak, or the pro-gun vote, they're in kind of a good situation. They can say that, hey, I don't want this, I don't support this, and, they're probably red enough to where that can carry their vote, and the Republicans may come out and vote for them in numbers. If they vote against it, hey, guys, again, I think the Democrats have more to lose by this, by voting it down, if they are in a purple or a reddish area. So like a Joe Manchin, it's suicide if the guy votes for this. It's total suicide. He'd be a nut to go for something like this. So anyway, that's kind of my thoughts on this. I apologize if I'm not clear on some of this stuff, and I apologize if I go through it too fast because there's a lot here. I mean, as you guys see, there's a ton. I didn't even print out. I only printed out the meat of the bill is only 25 pages long. There's the rest of it. It's 126 pages long. There's 100 pages of just guns, listed guns. Now, again, they do have a list of exempted guns that they are going to allow. I want to say my M1 Garand is exempted. So if they pass this bill, now I can target practice and protect my family with an M1 Garand from 1942. How sweet would that be? So anyway, guys, that's pretty much where I stand right now. I do want to repeat this again because I think it's worth you guys knowing this. Their definition of a pistol applies to both of these. This is what they list. This is what they name. They literally actually talk about the Scorpion in there. But these are the type of weapons that they're listing with the guise that this is what we're after, but their definition applies to this. So that's where my fear is. I don't trust them. I never have, and I'm not going to start now just because they have a list of guns in here. So, that being said, I don't want to talk a whole lot about the Florida shooting. I know a lot of people have been talking about it this week, and I know, I've talked about it a lot also. I just want to repeat that if anybody out there is having trouble coming up with something to talk about these liberals that want to prance out these 16-year-old kids that don't know anything about life, but yet they're trying to school us on gun policy, I would just like to remind everyone when somebody says, oh, what if it just saves one more life? Or what if, what about the kids? The kids are our most important asset, whatever, this kind of stuff. I would remind them once again that let's put any issues about guns aside and talk for a minute about the things that could have taken place that could have prevented this. And two of them clearly are. If the FBI does their job and passes on to the local field office down there, this crime would have been avoided. And if the 39 trips by the Broward County Sheriff's Department would have been handled properly, this wouldn't have happened either. I want to mention, touch on something real quick that a friend of mine brought to my attention. I did some research and read up on a little bit. One of the craziest incentives that you might ever hear about is called the Promise Program. The Promise Program, to my knowledge, is a nationwide federal program that, listen to me when I tell you this, and I don't have it pulled up, so I apologize if I don't have everything, good details and facts for you. But the Promise Program is simply a way to incentivize local police departments, not schools, to incentivize local police departments to apply and be eligible for grant money if they don't arrest school kids. What they're trying to do is, and I'm not even going to go into who the president was that instituted this because you guys can probably guess because this sounds like something that he would do. They put forth a plan where they didn't want kids that were performing crimes. They didn't want these kids to have criminal records. So what they did is they told the sheriff's departments and the police departments, in most cases it's the sheriff's departments who are the resource officers for these schools, they told them, look, we're going to make X amount of dollars in grant money available to you if you don't arrest these kids. Now, they may have their other form. I'm not saying they totally look the other way. Maybe they put them in detention or whatever. Bottom line is, when these kids are performing crimes, they do not arrest them. Like threatening to kill people, like this kid did, like killing animals, like this kid did, and a number of other things that this kid had cause for the sheriff's department to visit his home 30-something times. Again, the federal government is offering a carrot out there saying, we will give you this if you don't arrest these kids for performing crimes. That doesn't make any sense. Why would you ever incentivize somebody for not enforcing the law? That's how this happened. This Broward County Sheriff's Department was eligible for all kinds of money. Their whole reason for not doing anything to this kid that shot and killed 17 people was because they were making money off of it. You want to track it back to money being the root of all evil? That's what this is about. They were given an incentive to not do their job, and that incentive was money. I don't know what to say about this. I mean, it sickens me to know that this was not the only sheriff's department that's doing this. There's sheriff's departments all over the country that are making themselves eligible for this. Probably the ones right in my own backyard. So this is not just a Broward County thing. They're just in the spotlight right now. But how in the world do we justify that and then go back to blaming a gun, blaming an AR-15, or even blaming someone who's 19 years old for buying an AR-15? How do we get back to that whenever there's proof? Look, this is not a conspiracy. Just Google the Promise Plan or the Promise Program. Just Google it. It's not hidden. It's not like something you have to dig for. It's easy to find. It's also not hard to find out that these guys out there are actually making money off of not reporting these kids whenever they perform a crime. None of this is a conspiracy. This is all out there. Heck, Rush Limbaugh was talking about it this week. So when you're trying to when the left is trying to redirect you to talk about guns, maybe remind them of these things. Remind them a couple of these things. And I'm gonna tell you my thought on the age. You know, I've heard people sit here and talk about how, do you really think that I did an interview with PBS last week, maybe, where they asked me if they're not eligible to buy beer, but they can buy an AR-15. Well, first of all, not everybody can actually buy an AR-15. You actually have to do a background check to buy an AR-15. But anyone can buy beer if they're 21. Anyone can. There's no background checks for buying beers. And when you buy beer, I may have said this last week, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating this, but you're buying beer, maybe not to always get drunk, but you're buying a beer to get a buzz. Nobody buys a beer just because they like the taste of it. I like beer, but if I'm thirsty and I'm not looking to get a buzz, I usually don't reach for a beer. It's not usually what I reach for. So everyone who's buying a beer can buy a beer if they're of age and they're looking to get a buzz. Everybody that's buying an AR-15 is not trying to shoot a school up. That's just stupid. It's stupid that we even have that kind of thinking that, there would probably be people on the left that would argue with me and say that not everybody that buys a beer is trying to get a buzz. They probably would literally have that argument with me and say, no, there's casual social drinkers out there that aren't looking to get a buzz. But yet in the same breath, they will imply that every 19-year-old out there trying to buy an AR-15 is wanting to shoot a school up. Now, excuse me one second if you don't mind. I'd like to take a sip of water here. Staying on that 19-year-old topic, I might have mentioned this last week too, but I feel the need to repeat this. With our schools teaching kids how to put condoms on bananas in 6th grade, yet they sit here and act like they don't have any say in why these kids are getting pregnant at 14, 15, 16 years old. What about these young people that might be getting kicked out of their homes? What about the mom and the dad who don't like the boyfriend who just impregnated their daughter, so they kick her out of the house? And then the new dad, he can't take the kid and the girlfriend to live in his home. Maybe his parents don't have room, or maybe they don't want them there either because they got impregnated before they got married or underage, whatever. So now this 19-year-old kid is out there, or 18-year-old kid, is out there fending for himself, probably has a part-time job, and can't buy a handgun yet because he has to be 21 to buy a handgun. That is the preferred means of protecting yourself. That's the number one preferred means of home protection, is a handgun. So his next option would be an AR-15 or maybe a shotgun. But let's say it's an AR-15 because he's smart and he wants to be versatile. And he wants to have something that he can target practice with, he can defend his family with, maybe he can shoot 3-gun with, and hunt with. You can't do all those things with a shotgun. Well, now you were going to take the only means of protection away from this 18 or 19-year-old kid and his new wife or girlfriend and his new baby. You're going to disallow him from protecting himself. Now, we don't see the stats out there today that already point to that. These young kids out there that may not have, you can buy a handgun, well, you can get a decent handgun for $200 or $300. There's some manufacturers out there that, I'm not talking about the really bottom of the barrel, but let's say $150 to $200, this kid could normally find a handgun. Well, he's not 21, so he already can't buy that. There's no way that we're tracking stats right now that shows, a direct line or direct correlation back to this kid saying, hey, You know, my door was kicked in, my wife was beat up, I was beat up, or my wife was raped, my kid was beat up, I was beat up, simply because I didn't have a gun. No, the stats are just that it's a burglary or it's an assault that happened in the home. There's no stat that we can collect right now that draws that line back to show that if that kid could have bought his own protection, that he would have defended himself. There's no category that that falls into, so we don't have any way to track that. But my guess would be that's a very believable circumstance out there. Again, with all these young people getting pregnant right now and having kids at such young ages. Again, I don't blame everything on our culture and our society, but there's a lot that our society and our culture deserves blame on, and that's one of the areas that they deserve some blame on. So I don't see how it's right, fair, or constitutional to take the right of a young man that's 18, 19, or 20 years old to take his rights to defend himself and his family away from him just because he's not reaching that age. And I'm going to repeat this thing that I've said 100 times. At what point do we decide, like the left wants to decide, that these 19 and 20-year-olds are too immature and too stupid to be trusted with and to own an AR-15, but yet we'll sit here and listen all day long on live television to a 16-year-old who's being spoon-fed all these topics and all these sound bites and these little bullet points from the left on gun control, and we'll sit back and listen to that 16-year-old for an hour talk about how we need to ban guns and rewrite the Constitution. We think they're mature enough and smart enough and responsible enough to take their advice on constitutional policy when they're 16 years old, but a 20-year-old is too immature and stupid to be able to go out and buy a hunting rifle. That doesn't make any sense. Your priorities are all jacked up. They're all jacked up, people. Anyway, see, we've got 9 minutes left here, guys. I've been rambling on. I'm going to sit here and try if I can look at you guys. Let's see if I can look at your comments here. I'm going to scroll through them. I'll start from the bottom. So if you guys have any questions right now, if you would, go ahead and type them in there, and I'll try to address them now because they'll be fresh. The sad thing is, man, I think YouTube is changing this. If I don't get all of your comments now, YouTube doesn't allow me to go back and look at them later. Now, I think they're changing that to where I can actually go back and scroll through your old comments, which I would love to be able to address those. And I can't. Let's see. 80-year-olds can vote, die defending our country. This is from Jericho Fox. Why can't they have a rifle or shotgun to defend themselves as a citizen? I totally agree, man. Thank you, Unapologetic Westerner. He says that I sound like a gosh damn hero. I'm not, but I think we're all in the same boat, and I think a lot of us think alike. So we cannot let our 18-year-olds hunt without adult supervision. That's a great point there also. 18-year-olds allowed to go hunting. And actually in this new bill that they're proposing, I don't believe you would be able to loan any of your guns to anybody. Any of these semi-automatic guns. I don't think you could loan an AR-15 to somebody. I think you would have to do a background check to loan a gun. Let's say one of your friends wanted to go hog hunting, want to borrow one of your AR-15s. I'm pretty sure I read in there that you would have to perform a background check and a transfer, which is going to cost you money because whenever these gun stores have to start by law performing all of these mandatory transfers, they're going to start charging money because it's going to cost them a lot of time, and they should charge. They're paying somebody 10, 15 bucks an hour or more to sit behind that register and do this. So yeah, you try to loan somebody an AR-15 under this proposed bill, and you better get ready to fill out a background check. Let's see. Let me try to pull some of your other questions up. How many guns? This is from Sebastian Smiley. How many guns do you have? I don't know. I'm not saying that because I'm one of these guys who's worried that the government's going to come take all my stuff. I don't know how many guns I have. I've never taken the time to count how many I have. I have them on, you probably can't see many on this wall. The wall behind me and the wall in front of me has guns all across it too, about up to the floor, halfway up the floor to the ceiling. This is more of a workbench area over here. One day I'll take you guys on a tour of this. This place, my studio, is a total mess right now, so I don't want to show it to you right now. Let's see. Thinking is next Constitution DF2 DOT. Like this, our Constitution was made only for moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. That's from John Adams. Let's see here too. I'm trying to run through this stuff. Unapologetic Westerner again. Appreciate your comments. Said I love your setup. Keep your eyes and ears peeled. Being open on here is dangerous. You're right about that. We're probably, you guys might be on a list too just for being on here. Luke Buchanan says we're thankful for guys like you. Keep up the great work, Paul. Hey man, I appreciate you, Luke. You guys not, if y'all aren't on here watching, then I'm not doing this. So you guys are the reason why I'm here. Paul, have you been given any new strikes yet? No, I have not gotten any new strikes. I think, guys, that I'm small enough where I think around 90,000 subscribers on YouTube, 15 million views. That may sound like a lot, but compared to some of these other guys like Iraq Veteran and Tim from Military Arms Channel, that's the two that I know of. Those guys are huge, and they attract a lot more attention than I do. I think I'm small enough right now that I'm flying right under the radar. So no more strikes to me yet, but I have had my share of them. I've actually won appeals on my strikes, believe it or not. Only one appeal I have not won yet. I have a PSA out there that talks about concealed carry, and we actually filmed this in conjunction with our local sheriff's department. And the whole intent of the video was to make it safer for concealed carry people when you get pulled over, to tell them the right things to do when a police officer pulls you over. So it was like a PSA, like a public service announcement. Again, worked with the sheriff's department, had legal approval by the sheriff's department to film this with their own people. YouTube first went in there and wanted to take the video completely down. Now they've just got it demonetized to where it's not suitable for advertisers because it's not suitable content. This is probably the tamest video that I've got, and it's not suitable for advertisers. But you know why? It's got 1.5 million views on it. These guys are notorious for not wanting you to make money off of anything. Any of my videos that have a lot of views on it, those are the ones that I either get strikes or they go out there and mysteriously demonetize them. YouTube is slick. Let me see if I can find anything else. God Cotty said, I do appreciate your video on the Second Amendment. You're very welcome. I was glad to make that and was interested in doing that just because I felt like it needed to be out there, and I hope people are passing that on. Derek Jordan says, Paul, what do you recommend we do to prepare for what might come? Man, blow up your congresspersons, not just their emails. I'm one of these kind of people that I will send 100 emails just to make it annoying, but I'll also call 50 times because I feel like they can ignore the emails. And I have, out of all the emails I've sent over the years, I never get one that's specific to my topic. You'll notice when you send an email to a congressperson that there's a drop-down box, and the drop-down box has things that you can choose. It might be healthcare as a topic. It might be guns or the Second Amendment. It might be foreign policy. It might be the border. So they give you, I don't know, 10 or 15 things to choose from. The reason why they do that is because they're not reading your email. They see what your topic is, and they take their little form email response that applies to either guns or to Affordable Care Act or border policy, whatever. And they say, all right, this is what Billy wants to talk about, guns. Send this to him. And it's vague, and it's over. It basically just says, we support the Second Amendment. Thank you for your feedback, and let us know if you need anything else. And I've actually hammered them on their own Facebook pages. I'm like, guys, stop sending me this crap. If you're not going to read my emails, don't send me something. So that's why I call them. And you can sit there and call them, and they will not rush to get you off the phone. They may try, but they're not going to hang up on you. You can hold them on the phone for an hour. Let them know how you really feel. So the phone calls, in almost all cases, you're going to talk to somebody. So I have gotten voicemails before, but a lot of times you're actually going to talk to an actual person. So that's kind of the benefit of a phone call. I would say blow their phones up. Blow their phones up, man. This is kind of good. Let's see. Again, guys, I'm reading through y'all's stuff. Yeah, this is a comment from OBNXS1. It says, if you're still backing Turncoat Trump after Wednesday, I have no use for you. Man, I tell you what, Trump's advisors need to talk to him. Trump is never one to provide his own filter before he says something. And the things he says this week, just the comment about taking the guns without due process, that's a stupid comment. And I support Trump. I voted for Trump. Most of his policies I support. I will vote. I can't say I would vote against him because if they throw up a Hillary, I don't think I could ever vote for a Democrat. I just don't see it happening. But I wouldn't vote. I'm not going to support Trump. I'm not going to openly support him. I openly supported him on my channel whenever he ran. I will not do that. I will not do that because if he really truly thinks, which he's walking it back now, he started walking it back today about the due process, or at least his advisors and everybody else were walking it back. I saw Sarah Sanders Huckabee, or Sarah Huckabee Sanders, whatever, walk it back today. I don't think he's going to support that. I think he got stupid for a second, like he tends to do sometimes. He was excited because he had Dianne Feinstein all giggly and bubbly right next to him. And I think he just felt like, let me say something to liven the room up. I really want to get everybody to like me. Trump wants people to like him. So he'll say things that he thinks the mass majority of people might want to hear. And I think when he left that meeting, he might have realized that was really stupid. So he didn't want to come right back out and walk it back. But again, his advisors are walking it back. At some point, I think he will. But at this point, yeah, I mean, I don't want to call him a turncoat yet, but I can't support what he's saying right now. That's for sure. I got to see him. He needs to be more specific and tell me what he really meant by that and if he still stands behind it. If he says, I stand behind what I said, I'm done with him. I'm done with him. Let's see, guys. I'm about to have to shut this thing down because I don't remember whose channel it is. But we have, gosh, let me go see it real quick. Let me find it, guys. It's on Instagram. Instagram is having, let's see, NOC Firearms Training. If you guys don't know them already, NOC Firearms Training is about to have a Instagram live stream thing, and he's probably on right now. So I'm going to run over there here in a second. Let me actually pull it up, see if I can find it. And yeah, I'm going to run over there real quick, and I guess if you want to call it, pop in there to see what he's doing and be kind of like a guest on his live stream. I don't see that he's live yet. It is 8:01, but again, I'm going to end this. And again, his handle on Instagram is NOC Firearms Training. This is his actual, if you can see it, that's where we're going. So I'm headed straight over there. I'm going to actually close this YouTube window out and pull it up on my my Instagram account and run over there. Kevin Dixie is the name, but you see at the top, NOC Firearms Training. That's where I'm going to run over to. So guys, look, man, always appreciate this. We will be back next Friday, hopefully at the same time. I like doing the 7 o'clock Central Standard Time because we can get more of you guys visiting with us, and the feedback is unbelievable. I'm going to figure out a better system to address y'all's feedback too, by the way. Maybe what we'll do is kind of like what I did today and tell you guys to hold all your questions till the end, since as I'm talking, I'm usually not addressing the questions. And at the end, we'll open it up for like a 15 to 20 minute Q&A session. But guys, I'm going to bail. Thanks as always for hanging out with us. We'll see you guys next Friday night. And if you get a chance, run over to Instagram at the NOC Firearms Training and let's see what he's got to talk about over there. Guys, enjoy it. Thank you.